Archaic Records.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Archaic Records here with you again. My name is Jamie, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. Here to wish you a very happy Morrissey Monday, my weekly celebration of all things Morrissey and the Smiths. And for this week's episode, I thought I would do something a little bit different as we all dig into our imaginations a little bit to try to come up with a scenario that, if it were to come to fruition, would create for you your ultimate Morrissey concert-going experience. Where would the show be held? Who would you be with? Would there be an opener? Who would be the opener? And most importantly, what would the set list consist of? This week's episode is inspired by an ongoing conversation I've been having with my best friend Tim, who lives out in California. A conversation we've been having over the last couple weeks regarding our bands. Now, my best friend Tim in California is a die-hard, lifelong U2 fan. He posed this question to me a couple of weeks ago, and it's something that I've really been obsessing over the last couple weeks. Speaking of Tim, today is his birthday, so I'd like to dedicate today's episode to him. I love you, brother. I wish I was out there hanging out with you today. Odell Finders for life, if you know what I mean. If you're not in the loop, I just have to tell you, man, that's our gang. If you see us walking down the street in your neighborhood, you better take cover, because we're nothing nice, man. We are nothing nice. Anyway, as I began to sort of try to wrap my mind around this project, I quickly realized that there were many different sort of ways to approach this. Now, there are two ground rules to keep in mind. Three really, I guess. One being that it could be at any venue in the world, regardless of whether or not you've been there. Number two, if you choose to have an opening band, you get to choose whatever opening band you would want. And number three, and most importantly, the Morrissey show, can only consist of 22 songs with a one-song encore for a total of 23 songs. Now, as I said, as I began to sort of wrap my mind around this project, there were several different ways I thought that you could approach this. One being, you could just write out your top 23 favorite songs in order and have them played. There you go. Quick and easy, out the door. But for me, I really wanted to write what I thought would be kind of a cohesive set list. I wanted to try to touch on as many albums throughout Morrissey's catalog as possible. I wanted to sort of pick and choose things from as many different eras of Morrissey's catalog as possible. That being said, there were other things I also took into consideration. One being, should you include songs that Morrissey always plays, just because he always plays them? He's going to play them. My friend Tim posed the question, do you automatically eliminate songs that there's just no way he would ever play? Or is this a situation where he just gives you the pen, gives you complete creative control, and whatever you write down, he agrees to play and play to at least the best of his ability? Another thing I took into consideration was, do I want to hear songs that I've heard in the past, songs that are always good live, or do I want to hear a bunch of stuff that I've never heard live, not knowing how it is going to turn out, not knowing if I'm wasting a pick if it doesn't turn out quite as well as I would want it to? A lot of these questions were running through my mind over the last couple weeks as I've been working on this project, and I can assure you, one, you can probably tell that I have very little life if I'm willing to dedicate this much time to this sort of nonsensical bullshit. And number two, I've had probably about 8 strokes over the last 2 weeks trying to think about this, trying to narrow this thing down to 22 songs with a one-song encore. And that being said, this is the second set list I've written. The first one I thought turned out pretty well, although I was not entirely happy with it. I don't even know if I'm entirely happy with this one. I don't think it is possible to come up with the perfect set list in just 23 songs. There's going to be songs that are left out that I would love to hear. Like I said, there are, it was my goal, at least when I started this project, that I wanted to hit as many of the albums as possible and as many of the different eras of Morrissey's career as I could. That being said, there are albums that are completely left off of this set list, more than I expected, actually. I thought that the albums would be more evenly dispersed, which is not to say, I don't think at least is not to say that I went too heavy in one direction or another. But there are albums I love, by the way, that unfortunately did not find themselves represented on my set list. So I'm going to get into this a little bit. Quit wasting your damn time. I know, okay? Anyway, for me, the venue would be anywhere in Manchester. I know that's a real original choice, but for me, I've never been to Manchester. To go see Morrissey in Manchester would be a dream come true. Just going to Manchester is something which is on my ultimate bucket list, just to go back and see the historic sites as a Morrissey fan. So for me, any venue in Manchester is my venue of choice. I fly in, I take in the sights, and I go to see the main man, Stephen Patrick Morrissey, in his hometown. At the same now, I mentioned you have your choice of an opener or no opener. I chose that I would like to have an opening band, just one. I don't want it to be like one of those punk shows we go to where there's 9 opening bands before the headliner comes out. And for me, I want the opening band to be a young band, an energetic band, but a band that I love, a newer band. So I narrowed down my opening band to one of 2 choices. One being the band The Choices, a band that are based out of Paris, France. They just released their debut album, Vice and Virtue, which I absolutely love. It is probably one of my albums of the year. If I can't get The Choices to show up, my second option would be an American band called Sweeping Promises. Their new record is probably my record of the year in 2023. I will be doing my top 5 records of the year show coming up in a couple of weeks, hopefully before the end of the year. That would be best, I suppose. So anyway, the show is in Manchester with either The Choices or Sweeping Promises open, whoever the opening band is. They just finished up. They were great. Now I'm in the front row center because this is my dream Morrissey concert going experience. And the lights go down. And for me, you hear the introduction of something you recognize for the opening song. It is Take Me Back to Dear Old Blighty from the album The Queen is Dead, and the opening track to my dream Morrissey setlist, song number 1. Morrissey comes out and plays The Queen is Dead, including the intro from the album. That plays, the drums kick in, the crowd goes crazy, and this is a song, of course, that I absolutely love. My second favorite Morrissey album of all time. The reason why I chose this song to kick off the set list, if you will, is one thing I like in shows, one thing I look for in shows. Now, it doesn't have to be the case, but one thing I love in a set list is I love a song to kick off a show that's relatively well known and is a little bit up-tempo. That's why I choose The Queen is Dead. That's a song that's always going to be on my set list. It is my second favorite album by the big guy. It would be my favorite album if you disqualify Bona Drag based on its compilation status. I don't. So for me, the opening song is The Queen is Dead. From there, you hear that familiar guitar intro, and he and the band go into the first of The Gang to Die off of You Are the Quarry. Now, when I was considering what song I would want to be second on my dream set list, my mind, instantly raced to the film High Fidelity, in which, in the movie, Rob is describing the art of making a mixtape. I assume it's sort of the same thing with a set list. In the movie High Fidelity, Rob says, you want to start off with a killer, and then you want to take it up just a notch, but you don't want to blow your wad, so then you bring it back down a little bit. And for me, after The Queen is Dead, you go into First of the Gang to Die. By this point, you've pretty much whipped the crowd into a frenzy. I've probably got a log in my trunks already, and I'm just ready to go. I feel bad for people standing around me more than I feel bad for myself at this point in time. So far we have The Queen is Dead and First of the Gang to Die. After that, we're going back to the Smiths, this time the second album, Headmaster Ritual, off of Meat is Murder for the third song. This is probably one of my... I don't know if it's my favorite song off Meat is Murder, but it's definitely one of them. I think that this song is I'm actually not sure if I've ever seen the Headmaster Ritual live. I don't know if he still plays it live. I don't know if this is one of those songs that's kind of in retirement, but for me, this is probably one of my favorite songs off of Meat is Murder. I don't think I've ever seen it live, and man, this would be, like I said, this whole thing is sort of, a dream scenario, but to see this song live is something that I think it would just blow my mind. After that, the fourth song, we're going back into the Morrissey catalog for the song Boxers. Whoo, man, which is not only one of my favorite Morrissey songs of all time, it's one of my all-time favorite live songs. I have seen him do the song Boxers on a few different occasions. I never get tired of it. It's a little bit down-tempo. I think after, 3 songs that are relatively up-tempo, you bring the mood down just a tiny bit. I mean, you can really play Boxers at any point in the set list and it's going to work. But for me, after kind of 3 up-tempo songs, I consciously wanted to sort of bring it down a little bit. And to me, like I said, Boxers, not only is it one of my all-time favorite songs, it's one of my favorite live songs as well. After that, the 5th song, now we're all getting settled in. I'm thinking to myself, man, this set list is pretty good, Steve. After that, we're number 5. We're going to Bone a Drag, one of my favorite songs off of my favorite album of all time, Piccadilly Polari. I love this song. One of my favorite live songs in Morrissey's catalog. My favorite album of all time. Now, you'll be surprised to find out as the set list goes on that, as much as Bone a Drag is my favorite record of all time, I think it's pretty much perfect start to finish. I don't oversaturate the set list with things off of Bone a Drag. Like I said, I wanted to sort of spread the wealth. But I love Piccadilly Polari. It's one of my favorite live songs. You go back and listen to live recordings of that song. I think it's amazing. For me, it is number 5. After that, the 6th song in my dream Morrissey set list, we're going to Vauxhall and I for, maybe, again, well, it's not my favorite song of Vauxhall and I, but it's pretty close. And that is Hated for Loving. To get an opportunity to see Hated for Loving live, I would never pass that opportunity up. I might just die of a heart attack right there in front of him. I love that song. It is one of my favorite songs off of Vauxhall and I think it is one of the best written songs in Morrissey's entire catalog, which is saying a lot, I think. So for me, it's the sixth song of the set list. At this point in time, I deliberately wanted to bring in something off of Vauxhall and I. And I don't know that I've ever seen Hated for Loving live. I would bet that I haven't if I had to guess. So it's one of my favorite songs off of that record. Number 7 in my Dream Morrissey set list. Well, at least the best I could come up with. None of this, I don't think it's perfect. I don't know if anybody could come up with one that's perfect. But the next song is off of Strange Ways, Here We Come. The first song off the album, Rush and a Push, and The Land Is Ours. I know I've never seen this song live. I love it. I think that this would be a dream song for me to see live. Now you can rest assured, friends, that one song off of Strange Ways, Here We Come that is not on my set list, spoiler alert, is Girlfriend in a Coma, but because I've seen it a few too many times. It's just not my favorite song in the world anyway. But A Rush and a Push and The Land Is Ours has to be on there. It's a song I've never seen live. It's one of my favorite songs off of the album. After that, we are going to stay within the Smiths catalog and play the song Half a Person for my 8th song on the set list. Now, this is a song I have seen over the years. He actually just played it here in Tennessee on the 40th anniversary tour, both nights in Memphis and Nashville. Don't care. Never get tired of it. It's one of my favorite Smith songs. It's one of my favorite live songs. I love the impact it always has on the crowd. This is a song that always goes over huge. And apart from that, it's just one of my favorite live songs. It's just one of my favorite songs in the Smiths catalog. After that, we're going to go a little bit new, sort of new, 2017, with I Spent the Day in Bed is my 9th song on my Dream Morrissey set list off of Low in High School. I really love the song Spent the Day in Bed. This is one of my favorite newer Morrissey songs over the last decade. I know it's not exactly a deep cut, but I love it. I loved it. I've loved it from the moment it came out. Now in on the recent 40th anniversary tour, Morrissey played the song I Wish You Lonely off of Low in High School, which I love that song. I think it's one of his best live songs, actually. And it was one of the best live songs on that tour, both nights here in Memphis and Nashville. Very powerful. But I'm going to go a little bit more basic on this one. I do want to see Spent the Day in Bed. I love that song. I know, like I said, it's not a deep cut. I'm sorry. After that, I originally, for the next song, number 10, I originally wrote down Nobody Loves Us off of my early Burglary years because I love that song. But after further consideration, I scratched that one out. And I went off of Your Arsenal, which I realized I hadn't touched on yet. I wanted to get to a song off of Your Arsenal. And I'm going with National Front Disco for song at number 10. I mean, you really can't go wrong with anything off of Your Arsenal. When he was here in October, he played We Hate It When Our Friends Become Successful. I don't think that would be my first choice off of Your Arsenal. In fact, when I started doing this set list, my first step in the process was I went through every album and every single chronologically, and I wrote down everything off every album that would even be considered, just to cut the obvious excess fat as soon as possible. And I know that when I got to You Are the Quarry, I left off We Hate It When Our Friends Become Successful immediately, just because I've just seen it twice on the last tour. And, you know, it's okay. It's a good song. It's definitely not my favorite song for Your Arsenal. That was another thing I thought about when I was creating this set list. Another thing to take into consideration is, do you treat this as if this is the first time you're seeing Morrissey? Is this like, is this like a farewell, final show scenario? Or is this where you sit in your personal fandom? I mean, for me, I've seen Morrissey 12 times, so that's kind of where I came down on this. This is just, for me, this would be my 13th show. But there were a lot of other things I sort of took into consideration. And because I've just seen We Hate It When Our Friends Become Successful twice, I'm going with a different song. I love the song National Front Disco. I love its message. I love the tempo of it. You can't go wrong with anything off your arsenal. After that, song number 11, another pretty obvious choice, which is Irish Blood, English Heart, off of You Are the Quarry. I know it's a real obvious choice, but I love this song live. It's still one of my favorite live songs in the catalog. I don't care how many times I've heard it. I never get sick of seeing it live. He just played it out here on the 40th anniversary tour, and he killed it both nights. So for me, that's always one that I love to see. Number 12 for me now, we're going back to the Smiths catalog for I Know It's Over. This is a song I know I've never seen live, and one that I've always kind of had in the back of my mind, sort of hoping. I assume it's one that you just probably would never see live now at this point in time. But it's a song I would kill to see live. Another one of those, it's not a deep track, but another one of those Smith songs that I just can't get enough of. So for me, number 12 is I Know It's Over. Number 13, at this point in time, I wanted to hear something older. I really actually wanted to put down something off of the 1984 Smiths debut album. I originally wrote down This Charming Man, which I was like, we could see This Charming Man, which I would not be opposed to. After that, I wrote down Hand in Glove, which, is another one. It's like, yeah, it'd be great, but we're talking like dream set list, like dream set list as you can possibly make it. Neither one of those songs were really, 23 songs. I don't know. I mean, This Charming Man would be probably close. So I kind of went a different way, and I went into Strange Ways, Here We Come, and I chose Paint a Vulgar Picture, which is one of my favorite songs off that record. It's a song I don't think I've ever seen live. I don't know if I've even... I have to kind of dig through my mental Rolodex. I'm not sure if I've even heard a live version of Paint a Vulgar Picture, but I would love to see that song live. It's one of my favorite songs off of Strange Ways. So instead of picking a song off the first album, I chose that one at number 13. For number 14, I had sort of a similar quandary. I really wanted to go with something new for song number 14, so originally I had written down What Kind of People Live in These Houses, which is probably my favorite song off of the newest record, I Am Not a Dog on a Chain. I sort of reconsidered that, and then I wrote down I Thought You Were Dead, the single, which is a song I love, sort of a deep cut in the Morrissey catalog. I was like, again, it's like 23 songs. I don't know if that makes the set list in 23 songs, so I scratched both of those out, and instead I decided to go with the song Sunny off of My Early Burglary Years, just because I like that song better than What Kind of People Live in These Houses, and I Thought You Were Dead, which I would love to see I Thought You Were Dead live at some point in time. When Morrissey did the 40th anniversary tour out here in Tennessee, I had not seen him since Dog on a Chain came out. And I was really curious to hear what song he was going to play off of Dog on a Chain. He played Darling, I Hug a Pillow, which is fine. I like that song a lot. Dream set list scenario for me, though, he would play What Kind of People Live in These Houses, which is my favorite song off that record. So both of those got skipped in place of Sunny, which I love. As far as Morrissey's solo catalog goes, Early Burglary Years is my favorite. Not counting Bone and Drag is my favorite compilation. For me now, number 15, I made the conscious decision at this point in time I wanted to get to Kill Uncle. I hadn't touched on it yet. Now, the obvious choice, of course, is Our Frank, a song I love seeing live, a song he always kills live, but I just saw it in Nashville in October. I was like, I've seen it a bunch of times. Maybe I'll go in a different direction. Of course, you could always go with Sing Your Life, another song I really like a lot, another song that I think is always great live, but a song I have seen live on a few occasions. So I really, when it came to my choice at this point in time, wanting to hear something off Kill Uncle, I narrowed it down to either Mute Witness or the one that I chose, which is There's a Place in Hell for Me and My Friends. I love this song. I love old live versions of it. I don't think I've seen it live in person, but if you go back and listen to live recordings from the Kill Uncle era, I love this song live. And being that I don't believe I've seen it live in person, this would be one of the top choices, at least for me, off Kill Uncle. I love Our Frank and Sing Your Life, but I've seen him too many times. Mute Witness would be really cool also. The next song after that is a song that I really wanted to include on the set list, specifically because it is a song I've never... Well, I keep saying that, but maybe I've seen... I don't know. Barbarism Begins at Home. Anyway, off of Meat is Murder for number 16. Now, of course, this song would never be the same without Andy Rourke on the bass. But it is one of my favorite songs off Meat is Murder. And I don't believe I've seen it live in person. I have heard live, of course, we've all probably heard live recordings of it. It is a song that I absolutely love. And for me, it is my number 16. For number 17, we're going to stay with the Smiths era. I'm going to go back to The Queen is Dead now. At this point in time, I wanted to hear another song off The Queen is Dead. Of course, you always think, man, there's a light that never goes out. That's one of the greatest songs ever written. It is a great live song. I've seen it on a few different occasions in person. So I decided to go with Cemetery Gates, which I think is almost as equally a good song as There's a Light That Never Goes Out. I don't think it gets played as much, if at all, anymore. And I have seen There's a Light That Never Goes Out on a few occasions. So for me, number 17 is Cemetery Gates. Man, I love that song. All right, number 18. Man, show's starting to wind down. I'm starting to wonder what else he's going to play. For me, number 18, we're going back to your Arsenal. Probably my favorite song off the record. Seasick Yet Still Docked. Man, I love this song. It's one of my favorite performances off of what is probably my favorite live Morrissey album, Beethoven Was Deaf. I never get sick of Seasick Yet Still Docked. It is a song that's always going to be on my dream set list. It is one of my favorite songs off of one of my favorite albums. So for me, it is number 18. For number 19, I had originally written down Last of the Famous International Playboys. I wanted to get back to something off of Bona Drag, but I scratched that out, realizing that as of yet I had not hit off Maladjusted. And I definitely want to hear a song off Maladjusted. Now, for tonight's show, Morrissey, you can go ahead and put Alma Matters in the Garage. Not that I don't love that song, because I do, but it's always the go-to song off of Maladjusted. So for me, we're going to go with Ammunition, which is probably my favorite song off of Maladjusted. It's a song I've never seen live, I don't think, unless I saw it on the Maladjusted tour. I have to go back and look up the archive. My memory doesn't work quite as well as it used to. But my favorite song off of Maladjusted is Ammunition. So for tonight's show, at least, Steve, we're gonna put Alma Matters away, and we're gonna go with Ammunition. Whew, it's getting towards the end now. Tear running down my cheek. One, because this has been the greatest show of my life. And two, it's almost over. So for number 20, this really came down to two songs that I wanted to see in the spot in this, the number 20 position. One, either being Unlovable or two, being Asleep. Two very obvious Smiths choices. But I remember I did get a chance to see Asleep in 2014 on the World Peace Tour. And I don't know why, it was one of those songs I didn't expect to see. It was one of those moments in Morrissey's live career, at least in my career, seeing him as a fan, where he really surprised me, and it just about ripped my head off. So as much as I love Unlovable, I'm going with Asleep because I want to see that song again. In 2014, also, the World Peace Tour, that was not my favorite Morrissey show I've ever been to. In fact, if I had to pick a least favorite Morrissey show I've ever been to, it was probably that one. In San Jose in 2014, he was you could tell he was maybe a little crabby or something that night. But when he played Asleep, I basically melted right there. So I'm going to go with that at number 21, number 20. And number 21, it's getting pretty close to the end now, Steve. We're going with my favorite song of all time, Every Day is Like Sunday, off of Viva Hate or Bone to Drag, however you want to slice it. To me, it's the greatest song of all time. I don't care how many times I've seen it live. Not enough. So that's going to be in every set list that I would ever write. So I don't know what else to say. It's just my favorite song of all time. And for me now, number 22, to end the set. I will say when I wrote this set list, the last song of the set and the encore were actually the two easiest songs for me to choose. I knew which song I wanted to end the set, and I knew which song I wanted for the encore basically immediately. And then after that, it was relatively easy to come up with The Queen is Dead to open the set. The rest of it is what gave me a bunch of strokes over the past 2 weeks. But for me, to end the set is my favorite song off of Vauxhall and I, which is Speedway. Probably one of my top 5 favorite live songs in the Morrissey catalog. When he plays it and plays it well, it is a song that always makes me a little misty-eyed. I'm not sure why it has such a big effect on me, but it always does. So he's going to end the set with that. The band leaves the stage. I, at this point in time, have several logs in my trunks. I'm probably sobbing uncontrollably. My wife is filing for divorce based on the grounds of public embarrassment. But there's still one more song. We can't leave yet. Come on. Traffic's going to be there whether we leave now or in 10 minutes, okay? So just hold on. For me, it's easy. The encore, the band comes back out. This was, again, one of the easiest choices in the Dream Morrissey set list. And that is Jack the Ripper, which is another one of my favorite Morrissey songs, live Morrissey songs of all time. At the show in Memphis, out here for the 40th anniversary, he did this as the encore. And I was just like, man, this has to always be the encore, especially with the very dramatic light show and the steam and the fog and all that. So for me, that is my 23-song Dream Morrissey set list. The Queen is Dead, First of the Gang to Die, Headmaster Ritual, Boxers, Piccadilly Polari, Hated for Loving, A Rush and a Push and the Land is Ours, Half a Person, Spent the Day in Bed, National Front, Disco, Irish Blood, English Heart, I Know It's Over, Paint a Vulgar Picture, Sunny, A Place in Hell for Me and My Friends, Barbarism Begins at Home, Cemetery Gates, Seasick Yet Still Docked, Ammunition, Asleep, Every Day is Like Sunday, Speedway, and Jack the Ripper. I'm not saying it's perfect. I don't think there is a possible way to make this perfect. Even now I'm sitting here and I have my doubts. As you've probably noticed, there were a few sort of glaring omissions in my set list. Probably the three most noteworthy being Suede Head, which is a song I love. Not going to say I don't love it, but it's a song I've probably seen every time I've seen Morrissey live, and he can park that one in the garage, at least for tonight. How Soon Is Now, another song I love, arguably the most overplayed song in Morrissey's entire catalog. I love that song. I think most people do. Just another song I've probably just seen. Not saying I've seen it too many times. I haven't seen any of these songs too many times. But if you have a one-night dream scenario set list, I'm trading it out for something else. And of course, I left out Girlfriend in a Coma. I don't hate that song, but man, I get really burnt out on it. As far as the albums, obviously there wasn't anything off of Dog on a Chain. There wasn't anything off California Sun. There wasn't anything off of World Peace. There wasn't anything off of Years of Refusal and Southpaw Grammar. Not that I was done intentionally. I mean, I could sort of predict that there probably wouldn't have been much off of Southpaw Grammar or World Peace. I love all those other records, but when you're trying to narrow this thing down to like 23 songs, man, it was hard. Like I said, I really wanted to hit as many of the albums as possible. I wanted to pick and choose from as many of Morrissey's eras of his career as I possibly could. But for me, anyway, that is probably the best live show that I could come up with, at least in a couple weeks. I'd like to thank my friend Tim for giving me about 3 strokes over the past 2 weeks trying to come up with this best case scenario live show. Speaking of live shows, before I get out of here this week, of course, Morrissey announced a couple weeks ago the 40th anniversary celebration shows, 2 shows celebrating the 30th anniversary of You Were the Quarry out in Southern California. It's interesting to see that there has been a fair amount of backlash within the Morrissey fan community. Some people are upset that he is going down the sort of nostalgia route. Some people have been quite outraged over it. If you are feeling this way, I have a very easy solution to your problem, and that is don't go. I mean, that is really the simplest solution to any problem that you'll have today. And if I can come up with a solution, it's pretty simple because I am not the smartest guy in the world. But if for some reason you find this to be objectionable, just stay at home. It's easy. It doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to travel. You can sit at home with your arms crossed, with your indignant, self-righteous sneer stapled to your face. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going. I really don't care. And not that you care what I think. But the fact of the matter is that Morrissey is not getting any younger. None of us are getting any younger. And as grim and as this may sound, which I don't want it to, the opportunities for this type of events are not going to last forever. And I do believe that, Morrissey has said in the past that he would probably not ever go down the kind of nostalgia route. But at one point in my life, I once said to a room full of witnesses that I was only going to eat Raisin Bran for the rest of my life. And although I made a relatively valiant effort, I would say, I changed my mind. Things change. We're humans. We're not computers. We're not robots. And I think that with this record, especially with You Were the Quarry, I said this last week, I think you have to celebrate this record. I think that this is a unifying record within the Morrissey fan community, as much as we could possibly be unified, I guess. I didn't actually expect there to be as much backlash over this announcement as I've seen. Now, I think most people are generally pleased with the You're the Quarry announcement. Of course, you're always going to have those, people who are a bunch of sour twats who are going to, be indignant about it. But to me, this is a landmark record in Morrissey's catalog. Not only did it represent a huge comeback after like a 7-year hiatus, but like I said, I think it re-energized him. It re-energized the fan base. And to me, it is one of not only the greatest records in his catalog, but it is one of the greatest records of all time. And a chance to hear the album in its entirety is something that I won't pass up. And if you go back to 2004, where I actually saw the tour twice, it was, in my opinion, it was the greatest tour that I've ever seen in my life, personally. So I'm excited about it. I'm a little bit surprised that there has been as much negative backlash as there has been. I've also seen some people who are upset that he's coming back to LA because the last time he was in LA, he was only here for 30 minutes. Again, I'm not one to defend Morrissey for some of his hijinks, but if you are a Morrissey fan and you have been for longer than 5 minutes, you're probably aware of the fact that sometimes Morrissey can be somewhat unpredictable. I guarantee you that time in LA, that recent show in LA where he walked off after 30 minutes, wasn't the first time he's ever acted like a butt on stage. Probably will not be the last. And I'm not here to defend the fact that he sometimes pulls those shenanigans. But if you are a fan and you've studied his career and his behavior over the years, there's sort of a pattern that has developed over the years. I mean, there are books of jokes about whether or not Morrissey shows up for concerts or walks off after 2 minutes. I mean, this is something, like I said, I'm not defending it. I would never defend it. But there's a history of this here. So I think for all of us, when you buy tickets to go see the big guy, sometimes it's a gamble. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to the Anaheim show. I am excited. I really cannot wait, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, man, thank you so much for checking out this video. This is Archaic Records. My name is Jamie, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check back every week for Morrissey Monday, my weekly celebration of all things Morrissey and the Smiths. Go out and support your local record store. Go and see Morrissey live this January in Anaheim and Los Angeles. Also, feel free to join the conversation on this topic or any topic I discuss on this channel. I always enjoy getting some sort of feedback. But if you were to write out your Morrissey dream set list, which includes 22 songs with a 1-song encore, what songs would make your list? Where did I go wrong? Where did I go right? Where would you see the show? Who would open? Would there be an opener? Really, this is something that you have complete creative control over. Anyway, be sure to check back also throughout the week for other record content on this channel. And until next time, my friends, I'll talk to you then.